right. It's time to talk about the All-Star game. I do feel like this is just beating a dead horse at this point with how wrong things have gone with this entire weekend over the last decade or so. I will say it does seem like the NBA is actually attempting to at least mitigate some of the issues that we've been seeing with this event over the last however many years. And I do feel like they've introduced some things recently that could really be welcome changes in the future, especially if they are just ironed out a bit. I'm just going to start with the All-Star game because it's fresh on my mind. It just happened. The tournament style game, I do think that is sort of a step in the right direction in terms of restoring at least some sort of competitiveness to the All-Star game. And we did see that in pretty much all of the games. They follow what they did with the restructuring that they did with the Rising Stars a few years back. 4 teams instead of 2, 2 and 2 play each other to a target score, and then the winner of those 2 games face off in the ultimate final game also to a target score. And I do feel like that format is definitely a step in the right direction. I don't necessarily think that is the solution, but I do think that it's interesting. Like they're at least trying things out to see where it goes. And so I do feel like that's the important part, is that they're trying to make this weekend overall more exciting for the fans. Or so I thought, because this All-Star game might be the worst All-Star game that I have ever sat through in my entire life, and it's not anything to do with the basketball, which is the insane part. The actual basketball games, I feel like, were actually pretty good. They obviously wasn't the most competitive game, which you don't really expect it. And by the way, that's a whole other conversation. I watched the 2000 All-Star game, and that's the type of competitiveness that we're hyping up. It was literally largely the same thing, except just inside the three-point line. But I digress. I say this because it did actually seem like they wanted to take this game at least a little bit more seriously than they have been over the last however many years. Jaren Jackson was picking up dudes full court. Kyrie Irving was playing some great defense. Wemby was blocking shots, rim protecting really well. Like, it seemed like it was shades of what it used to be, where it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna play half speed, and then when necessary we'll start like actually at least somewhat turning it up. But overall, I didn't really have that many complaints with the basketball product that I was seeing. And of course, my guy put on a show, 2-time MVP, All-Star MVP. That is about the end of the positives that I can say about the actual basketball, because we didn't see that much basketball in the All-Star game. So this is a problem that I've been seeing kind of on and off, even just with the All-Star Saturday with the 3-point contest and dunk contest and all that. I said on Twitter, because they had this whole like 10-minute introduction just reminiscing on what Vince Carter did back when the All-Star game was the Bay last time. And it almost felt like, I literally tweeted, it feels like this is like a farewell to the dunk contest. Like, is this the last one ever? Like, why are they doing this? And in terms of, again, the basketball product, I don't feel like Ajax was supposed to be there. There definitely could have been other contestants, but Mac McClung once again put on a show. Of course, there were moments where you're like, oh God. But I feel like Mac McClung has sort of been this savior in a way where no matter what happens, you always come away from the dunk contest feeling good that you actually saw something different, at least in the past 3 years where he's actually participated. And again, no issues with the actual contest. It's the presentation of this entire product that everybody is having an issue with. More specific, let's go back to the All-Star game. So as I said before, 4 teams, Team Shaq, Team Chuck, Team Kenny, who were the OGs, the international players basically, and the Rising Stars, and then also the real Rising Stars that are like all like first and second year players, which I don't really think that they should have been there to begin with. But with the format, you had to have a 4th team to make it work, so be it. You're looking at 3 separate games. Now, if we go back here, let me actually go through the broadcast and see how much time they actually spent playing basketball and how much time was spent on just other nonsense. So in total, the first game was Team Kenny versus Team Chuck, so World versus Rising Stars of the actual players that were selected All-Stars. This game, start to finish, in terms of like actual basketball, took about 18 minutes, 19 minutes, give or take. The second game, which was the OGs versus the young guys, of course this is all commercials and everything excluded. This game took about 18 minutes again, and so you see we're going through the games pretty quickly here. And then the championship game, which was the OGs versus the international players and Donovan Mitchell, who was a replacement. This game took 30 minutes to complete. Now you might be asking, oh, well, you probably have a couple questions. One, that does not add up to 3 hours, which was the entire event length. But you also might be asking, why was the third game so much longer than the first two? We will get to that. Trust me. I'll answer the other question, which you probably have, which is why is there an hour of basketball total in a 3-hour all-star game event? And the answer is because they spent so much time on presentation. The game was scheduled at 5:20 Pacific, like the time zone that the game actually took place in, to give time for the player introductions and everything like that. The game still started 15 minutes after that. So the game started at 5:35, or at least the first game. And so you had that. I'm just going to scroll through the broadcast here, just skimming along and see what actually went wrong here. Oh yeah, so the first indication that I figured that the NBA has completely lost the plot. When we were through introducing all the teams and everything, we have a complete sidetrack to introduce Kevin Hart, which is the key to everything that everybody hated about this event, because nobody asked for this. He has had so many bad moments during the matchup. You had him trying to make a joke about Shea's shoes, where Shea literally, they cut to Shea and he's literally telling him to shut up so we can play basketball.
Wait, all right. Want to play? Yeah. I agree.
You have Kevin Hart inexplicably saying that Shaq looks like a porn director on national TV, which I'm fairly certain Adam Silver did not have in mind, nor did he enjoy that at all. You have just the typical Kevin Hart shtick where he just is trying so hard to be funny and ends up actually not being funny. I think Charles Barkley was actually way funnier than him, but that's besides the point. So you finish the first game and then you have an entire 10-minute Mr. Beast $100,000 challenge, which I guess is cool, but at the same time, it's like, I'd rather just see this, I don't know, during All-Star Saturday or something, if you are going to do something like that, rather than just interrupting the flow of the game. You have Draymond Green getting on TV and actively on the product non-stop as it is going on.
Scale of 1 to 10, your thoughts of the format?
10 being the best.
Yes.
A 0 sucks. Same basketball.
Which I can't understand why. Last year it was Kenny Smith doing that with the 3-point contest and him inexplicably saying, why didn't Sabrina shoot from the W line? Well, why? It wasn't fair. Keep in mind, Stephen hadn't won the competition until the second to last shot, and he's talking like he just absolutely smoked her like 30-4, but that was his performance last season, talking about how nobody cares about the dunk contest or anything like that as the dunk contest is going on, which there have been a bunch of people that talked about that last season. But this season it was Draymond Green talking about how the format is 0 out of 10, how the Rising Stars shouldn't even be here. Keep in mind, Trace Jackson Davis was on the Rising Stars team, so he's literally on his own teammate at this point, which, as history has shown us, he has no problem doing. He's done worse. Then we go on to the introductions with the OGs and the young players, again somewhat taken over by Kevin Hart. That game again took about 20 minutes to complete. After that, we have a musical performance by E40 and Sweetie, which I actually thought was really good. I mean, that's not really out of the ordinary. They would usually just have that at the halftime of the regular All-Star game with the, the regular format. And so they had to find some sort of time slot to put that in. So that's not really that unusual. After that, we get more on the product from Draymond Green. He didn't have, I don't think he said anything positive the entire night. I'm genuinely not exaggerating. So then we go to the final game, which was the OGs versus the international players. So Team Shaq came out to an 11-1 lead in that game. Then we have a timeout and a commercial break, and when we come out of the timeout, we have an entire 20-minute, not exaggerating, 20-minute tribute to the inside guys, Chuck, Ernie, Shaq, and Kenny. Yeah, you heard that correctly. They stopped the entire game for a 20-minute tribute to those guys, which they do deserve. But doing this in the middle of the All-Star game, what are we doing? You couldn't find any other reasonable time to do this? It almost seemed like they tried their hardest to intentionally disrupt any rhythm that this event would have had. So we come out of the, again, 20-minute break. And that was the point where it seemed like we had reverted back to the All-Star game of old, because it's just like, I feel like the players, it seemed like they had just stopped caring at that point, which I don't even blame them. So then play resumes 19 minutes later, no commercial breaks. By the way, timeout at 11-1, went to commercial break, came back to a 20-minute tribute, and then straight into another commercial break, and then we go back to the game. There's that, and then, you know, we that's the actual end of the event, which we couldn't even get through that without an ad. They were presenting Stefan with his All-Star MVP, and we got a full damn near minute-long ad for Kia. It just, as someone that goes to sleep, wakes up thinking about this sport, partially because my job now, it's very just depressing to see what this has become, because this, as I said, this format and the actual basketball this year was actually pretty decent. Like, it was actually pretty fun to watch, to be honest, at least more fun than years past. But it was just so unwatchable because of all of the extra stuff. They finally somewhat fixed the actual basketball and then f***ed up everything else. I don't know how they keep doing it. That was my overall issue with All-Star Game. Also, just not having Steph in any event whatsoever in his city is insane to me. He was supposed to do another 3-point contest against Sabrina, but they canceled it because they couldn't one-up themselves from last season, which I'm like, the contest last year was fine. Like, you don't need to one-up yourself to just be able to present a product like that. Steph on his own and Sabrina on her own are going to be able to sell, especially if it's in the Bay. Like, I'm not understanding what we're doing. It would have been better than the actual product that you put out for the All-Star game, or maybe it wouldn't have, because you probably would have put like a whole, I don't know, Kevin Hart stand-up special in between Steph and Sabrina shooting. Like, I don't understand what is going on here. All in all, the actual events and everything were good this season. I will say that. The dunk contest was good. The 3-point contest was pretty good. We should have had Steph or Sabrina again. I'm just not understanding who this was even supposed to be for. Like, I don't, because this, like, there have been bad All-Star weekends. I've never seen one so universally disliked. And I've never seen one so universally disliked for reasons other than the actual whatever happened on the court. Like, it's impressive. But I feel like I'm rambling now. That's just my thoughts on the All-Star game. If we keep the teams format, or like the tournament style format, I do think that the score limit needs to be raised, maybe to not even that much, maybe to like 50 or 60. But that would really be the only thing that I would change at this moment in time. I can't really think of anything else that would necessarily make it better, or I don't know, maybe you guys don't have some. But let me know in the comments down below. But with all that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, comment down below what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.